Salam sejahtera, anda sedang menyaksikan Niaga AWANI bersama saya Nina Rozman. Seperti biasa, jam ini kami akan bawakan pelbagai rangkuman berita niaga, ekonomi termasuk untuk melihat bagaimanakah pasaran tempatan hingga ke peringkat global. Dan beberapa topik akan kita beri fokus dalam episod kali ini dan kita akan mulakan dengan perjanjian timbal balas 2025 ERT antara Malaysia dan juga Amerika Syarikat yang membuka lembaran baharu dalam hubungan perdagangan dua hala. Namun juga mencetuskan persoalan besar tentang sejauh mana negara mampu mengekalkan ruang autonominya di sebalik janji keterbukaan pasaran dan juga kerjasama strategik. Terselit satu cabaran lebih mendalam dari dasar industri dan kawalan ekspor hingga kedaulatan teknologi serta keseimbangan dalam rantai nilai global itu sendiri. Dan dalam jam ini kita akan memberi fokus bagaimana ataupun sejauh mana Malaysia ini benar-benar bersedia mempertahankan dasar terasnya ketika dunia menuju era baharu diplomasi ekonomi dan juga sekatan strategik. Bersedia dalam talian untuk mengulas lebih lanjut adalah Dr. Muhammad Azhar Nizam Abdul Rashid, Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Dr. kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Apabila kita melihat kepada perjanjian ART ini, kita akan melihat kepada kuasa autonomi ekonomi dan juga penjajaran strategi, alignment. Berdasarkan pandangan awal doktor itu sendiri, sejauh mana Malaysia ni benar-benar dapat kekalkan autonomi dasar ekonomi di bawah kerangka ART 2025, khususnya jika Sekatan Perdagangan Amerika Syarikat itu diperketatkan atas alasan keselamatan negara.
Baik, terima kasih Nina. Saya rasa perbincangan ini banyak berkenaan dengan dari sudut perundangan dan memang saya rasa sebaiknya yang boleh mengulas adalah pakar perundangan lah. Tapi mungkin saya melihat dari sudut ekonomi dan bagaimana konteks itu dapat dilihat dalam keadilan dalam kita berdagang dengan pelbagai rakan dagang kita lah. Saya sebenarnya bila melihat agreement tersebut, sebenarnya kalau kita lihat sebenarnya ada saja apa yang dikatakan sebagai klausa yang dikatakan sebagai pengecualian atau exceptions. Kalau kita lihat klausa ataupun artikel 3.4 ya, paragraf 2, terdapat pelbagai exceptions ataupun pengecualian yang diberikan seperti berkenaan dengan pemulihan kerajaan, source code untuk software dan sebagainya. Jadi saya kira dengan adanya pengecualian tersebut, maka dari sudut secara umum yang saya nampaklah dari segi kedaulatan kita sebagai sebuah negara untuk berdagang masih lagi orang kata tu kekal utuh dan tidak ada orang kata tu kompromi lah, dan kita masih lagi bebas untuk berbincang dan orang kata tu menentangkan pelbagai perjanjian dengan negara-negara lain. Jadi saya kira ini satu perkara yang perlu kita ataupun mungkin pihak MITI perlu perjelaskan dengan lebih tuntas lagi, dan saya kira usaha tersebut dalam iklim semasa ni yang saya kira agak panas perlu diperkasakan, perlu diperhebatkan, perlu kekerapan itu perlu ditingkatkan supaya kita jelas akan hala tuju dari sudut pandangan antarabangsa negara, terutamanya dalam konteks bagaimana negara Malaysia menangani isu dasar protectionist policies yang diamalkan oleh negara Amerika Syarikat, yang saya kira sebenarnya memang orang kata tu impaknya besar. Kerana negara Amerika Syarikat ni sebuah negara yang terbesar dari segi ekonomi globalnya, maka apa saja yang berlaku di sana dari segi perundangan, momentum pertumbuhan dan ekonomi dan sebagainya sudah pasti akan beri kesan yang boleh dikirakan sebagai sistemik sebenarnya.
Sistemik, dan kita tahu sudah tahu ini adalah antara usaha kalau kita lihat dalam keadaan yang terkawal tapi dalam tempoh-tempoh iklim yang agak hot seperti yang doktor kongsikan tadi. Dan kalau kita melihat Malaysia sebuah negara yang kecil namun terbuka, dan kita mempunyai rakan dagang kita sudah bersama dengan Amerika Syarikat dan juga China ini sudah berdekad, dan sudah tentu bergerak ke hadapan Malaysia harus mainkan peranan yang lebih kukuh. Bagaimana untuk Malaysia dengan bawa suara inclusivity, sustainability, terutamanya dengan centrality ASEAN itu sendiri, Malaysia boleh kekalkan lagi pendirian berkecuali tanpa terperangkap, terutama dalam strategi sekatan Amerika Syarikat terhadap negara ketiga seperti China?
Saya rasa sidang kemuncak ASEAN yang ke-47 baru-baru ini yang diadakan di ibu negara jelas menunjukkan posisi Malaysia bersama ASEAN itu jelas orang kata tu mengekalkan konsep neutrality, dan kita mengamalkan dasar konsensus, kita mengamalkan dasar untuk berdiplomasi. dan bukan sahaja dengan Amerika Syarikat, bahkan dengan negara besar yang lain seperti negara China, negara Eropah dan sebagainya. Jadi saya rasa sidang kemuncak ASEAN baru-baru ni jelas menunjukkan aspek tersebut. Tapi yang mungkin yang perlu kita tekankan sebenarnya adalah sememangnya usaha untuk berbincang dan betul mendandatangani perdagangan antarabangsa ni memang satu perkara yang penting. Tetapi sama pentingnya juga dari segi bagaimana syarikat-syarikat pakai privilege yang kita telah dapat melalui perdagangan antarabangsa ni, dan bagaimana mereka menggunakan kelebihan tersebut untuk mereka menembusi pasaran ekspor. Saya rasa itu juga satu aspek yang penting kerana adaptasi terhadap FTA dan sebagainya ini memakan masa kerana dia melibatkan proses orang kata tu pembinaan kapasiti ataupun capacity building, terutamanya dari segi sektor perniagaan perusahaan mikro, kecil dan sederhana. Bagi mereka perlu mengadaptasi standard perniagaan mereka dengan standard di luar sana sekiranya mereka mahu untuk menembusi pasar luar. Itu memerlukan modal yang besar sebenarnya dan juga memerlukan bantuan ataupun hand holding punya program dan sebagainya. Dan saya kira sama pentingnya juga selain kita nak memastikan perjanjian itu adil dan saksama yang perlu dilaksanakan. Jadi itu juga perlu kita bagi penekanan kerana pengakhirannya apa yang kita mahu. Yang kita mahu kita nak berniaga kan, kita mahu berdagang dan menembusi pasaran luar, dan kita juga perlu akur ataupun maklum tentang kemungkinan pasaran luar juga pemain daripada pasaran luar juga akan masuk ke dalam Malaysia dan bersaing dengan dalam pasaran domestik juga. Ini bererti peniaga-peniaga baik kecil atau besar perlu bersedia untuk menerima cabaran dari sudut persaingan yang lebih sengit, yang lebih intens, dan ini memerlukan suatu bentuk dasar yang lebih orang kata tu terangkum untuk memastikan firma-firma di Malaysia ini bersedia untuk bersaing secara adil dan saksama.
Dan doktor, bercakap mengenai kita tahu untuk menjaga kesejahteraan ataupun kerjasama antara rakan serantau, rakan global bukan mudah apabila kita pada masa sama ingin seimbangkan ataupun jaga kepentingan nasional itu sendiri. Dan kita sudah ada perjanjian dan Scott Bessent US Treasury juga ada berkata terlihat Amerika Syarikat ni hormat terhadap segala keputusan Malaysia untuk melakukan ataupun melaksanakan sesuatu langkah yang akan menjaga kepentingan ekonominya sendiri. Dan kalau kita lihat Malaysia sudah cuba segala-galanya dengan mengadakan sidang kemuncak ASEAN dan beberapa sidang kemuncak yang lain. Dan kalau kita lihat selain daripada dasar-dasar yang telah ditentu ataupun telah dipersetujui dalam ART sendiri, bagaimana untuk kita lihat kepada dasar di peringkat domestik, apa yang Malaysia boleh lakukan selepas ini? Kita sudah dapat kerangka ART, tetapi mungkin kita perlu tambah baik sikit daripada segi dasar domestik agar kita dapat accommodate daripada kerangka ART itu sendiri. Bagaimana pandangan doktor terhadap perkara ini agar tiada siapa tertinggal, terutamanya the small stakeholder, PKS tempatan, tenaga kerja dan juga inovasi-inovasi lokal ini?
Itu yang saya sebutkan tadi tu. Seterusnya apa yang kita mahu capai kalau kita dah berbincang, dah berunding, dah menandatangani perjanjian, sudah pasti kita nak pakai apa sahaja terma yang terdapat dalam perjanjian tersebut. Dan ini menuntut suatu persoalan, adakah firma-firma di Malaysia ni bersedia untuk menembusi pasaran luar, bersedia untuk menerima suatu bentuk persaingan yang lebih hebat daripada luar. Kerana pengakhirannya kita semua, maksudnya kita pun nak mahu masuk pasaran luar, kalau boleh tanpa kekangan dan halangan dan sebagainya. Mereka ataupun pemain industri di luar sana pun mahu memasuki pasaran kita tanpa halangan dan kekangan. So satu bentuk titik tengah perlu dicapai, dan di sini dia menuntut satu persoalan lah. Adakah firma-firma di negara kita ni sudah bersedia, terutamanya dari segi perusahaan mikro, kecil dan sederhana, dari segi kapasitinya itu. Kita dah bercakap tentang IR 4.0, maksudnya berkenaan dengan bagaimana perubahan teknologi itu telah merubah bagaimana landscape perniagaan dan industri. Dan sekarang ni kita bercakap tentang perdagangan antarabangsa yang melibatkan perdagangan dua hala. Bukan saja kita nak cakap pasal ekspor saja, malah akan ada unsur import juga, maksudnya persaingan daripada luar. Adakah firma kita bersedia? Dan di sini saya rasa sebenarnya segala bentuk
Baik.
bantuan kerajaan itu perlu digarap dengan penuh tuntas lah.
Bercakap mengenai presiden, apa antara contoh yang boleh kita lihat daripada segi tabir urus ataupun garis merah dan kredibiliti dasar ketika ini? Dasar ketika ini, dan mungkin ada dasar-dasar yang mungkin kita boleh wujudkan.
Garis merah saya rasa yang tak lain tak bukan berkenaan dengan dasar bumi putera lah. Kerana kita tahu dasar bumi putera ni semenjak dasar ekonomi baru 1970-an lagi, sehingga sepatutnya diakhiri pada tahun 90-an, tapi diteruskan juga. Di sini saya rasa ini satu garis merah yang perlu kita perlu akur, tapi pada masa sama juga kita sebagai bumi putera juga perlu akur juga, orang kata bersedia untuk membuka pasaran. Jadi di sini kita menuntut suatu bentuk perubahan yang beransur-ansur, bukan secara mendadak. Di sini peranan maklumat, komunikasi dan juga bantuan-bantuan yang sedia ada itu perlu disalurkan secara cekap supaya masa untuk firma-firma ini untuk orang kata tu meningkatkan daya saing ini cepat boleh berlaku dengan kadar yang segera supaya mereka ni boleh bersedia untuk bersaing. Jadi itu juga memerlukan suatu a change in mindset, perubahan dari sudut minda, terutamanya di kalangan firma-firma bumi putera. Kalau boleh sekarang ni bukan saja mengharapkan kontrak-kontrak daripada kerajaan, malah mereka boleh bersaing di peringkat antarabangsa. Itu satu paradigm shift ke mindset change ke yang saya kira perlu berlaku di kalangan bumi putera, dari segi peniaga-peniaga ataupun usaha bumi putera yang ada di Malaysia sekarang ini.
Okey doktor, saya nak ucapkan terima kasih. Sudah tu ini sangat perkongsian yang cukup menarik. Seperti apa yang doktor kongsikan, walaupun kita berada di iklim ataupun cuaca ekonomi di peringkat global yang sangat hangat, tetapi apa perkara yang telah dilakukan di peringkat domestik oleh Malaysia sendiri, sudah tentu kita rasa untuk kita melakukan ataupun menentukan setiap dasar perdagangan pelaburan dan ekspor import ni, paling penting adalah untuk melakukan secara ansur-ansur dan bukan bertukar atau berubah secara cepat, kerana kita tahu untuk memastikan iaitu firma-firma ini agar dapat bersedia dengan lebih rapi dan lebih kukuh dan dapat bersaing sehinggalah ke peringkat global. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada Dr. Muhammad Azan Nizam, Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad. Setiap perbincangan ini akan kami rangkumkan dalam astrawani.com dan di semua platform digital Astro Awani. Saya akan beralih kepada prestasi ringgit yang dijangka mengekalkan momentum positifnya minggu ini menjelang keputusan Jawatan Kuasa Dasar Moneteri MPC Bank Negara Malaysia BNM mengenai kadar dasar semalaman OPR pada 6 November yang dijangka menjadi tumpuan utama. Ketua Ekonomi Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad Dr. Muhammad Azan Nizam Abdul Rashid sekali lagi berkata ringgit dijangka diniagakan antara 4.18 dan 4.20 berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat minggu ini. Keputusan ini akan memberi lebih banyak gambaran mengenai bagaimana BNM melihat ekonomi dan bagaimana ia dapat membentuk pendirian dasar moneterinya pada masa depan. Beliau berkata OPR diunjur kekal pada 2.75% memandangkan ekonomi Malaysia kekal berdaya tahan berdasarkan anggaran terkini pertubuhan keluaran dalam negara kasar untuk suku ketiga 2025 yang mencatatkan 5.2%. Berdasarkan minggu ke minggu, ringgit mengukuh berbanding dolar Amerika Syarikat dengan ditutup lebih tinggi sedikit iaitu kepada 4.1860 atau 1930 daripada 4.2210 atau 2255 minggu lepas. Mata wang tempatan juga diniagakan lebih tinggi berbanding sekumpulan mata wang utama. Ringgit mengukuh berbanding yen Jepun kepada 2.7162 atau 7210 daripada 2.7592 atau 7623, naik berbanding pound Britain kepada 5.5025 atau 5117 daripada 5.6232 atau 6292 dan melonjak berbanding euro kepada 4.8453 atau 8534 daripada 4.9010 atau 9062 ketika ditutup pada minggu lepas. Mata wang tempatan kebanyakannya bergerak lebih tinggi berbanding mata wang ASEAN yang lain. Di Wall Street, perbincangan kini tertumpu kepada persoalan sama, ada pasaran sedang membina satu gelembung baharu berasaskan AI. Ini kerana syarikat gergasi seperti Microsoft, Google, Meta dan Amazon kini membelanjakan ratusan bilion dolar untuk membina pusat data, pelayan dan chip pemprosesan bagi menyokong sistem AI generatif. Dan dalam suku terkini, perbelanjaan modal mereka melonjak antara 70% hingga 100% berbanding tahun lalu. Lonjakan pelaburan ini telah melonjakkan harga saham teknologi ke paras tertinggi. Tetapi pada masa sama, ia juga menimbulkan kebimbangan. Adakah kenaikan ini berpaksikan asas sebenar atau hanya euforia pasaran? Persoalan inilah yang penting kepada pelabur Malaysia kerana apa yang berlaku di Wall Street akan cepat mempengaruhi hala tuju bursa Malaysia. Dan sudah bersedia untuk bantu kami fahami setiap aspek gelembung yang ada dalam pasaran adalah pengarah strategi pelaburan dan ekonomi IPPFA Sedang Berhad Muhammad Siddiq Jantan. Saya nak ucapkan terima kasih Siddiq kerana sudi meluangkan masa bersama kami. Kita akan terus kepada persoalan kita. Mengapa Wall Street ni ketika ini bimbang tentang gelembung AI?
Okey, baik Nina, kalau kita lihat, even, apa yang Nina katakan, perbelanjaan yang dilakukan oleh Amazon dan juga Meta, tapi pada masa yang sama, even, sekarang ni kita lihat, OpenAI ataupun, produk mereka iaitu ChatGPT, mereka juga, sedang mengumpulkan, dana-dana untuk, meletakkan company OpenAI di, IPO, dan ini menunjukkan, banyak perbelanjaan dilakukan oleh kebanyakan syarikat-syarikat teknologi. So, kebimbangan terhadap gelombang AI ataupun yang kita panggil AI bubble ni, dia berpunca daripada dua perkara, iaitu yang pertama kenaikan harga saham teknologi yang terlalu pantas, dan juga yang kedua adalah jurang antara pelaburan besar dengan pulangan sebenar. So, dalam tempoh 2 tahun terakhir, kalau kita tengok pada tahun 2023, 24 dan 25, kita lihat indeks Nasdaq sendiri telah melonjak lebih daripada 40%, yang kita lihat ianya banyak didorong oleh euforia terhadap potensi kecerdasan buatan iaitu AI. Syarikat gergasi teknologi dia meningkatkan perbelanjaan yang mendadak, namun pertumbuhan keuntungan sebenar tidak seiring. Dan sebagai contoh, hasil daripada penggunaan Gen AI masih kecil berbanding dengan jumlah pendapatan keseluruhan syarikat-syarikat besar tersebut. So kalau kita tengok even laporan daripada Gartner, dia menganggarkan pelaburan dalam sektor AI boleh mencecah 1.5 trilion US dollar untuk tahun ini, tahun 2025, dan nilai purata pulangan pelaburan adalah masih rendah, iaitu di bawah 10% bagi kebanyakan projek awal. So ini menimbulkan persoalan sama ada adakah industri AI kini berada pada fasa pelaburan berlebihan
Mhm.
yang belum disokong oleh hasil ekonomi sebenar. Itu menjadi persoalan kebanyakan penganalisis, dan banyak juga penganalisis dia melihat dan mengaitkan situasi ini dengan gelembung dot-com bubble yang berlaku pada tahun 2000, di mana harga saham dia melonjak semata-mata kerana keyakinan terhadap masa depan teknologi tanpa asas pendapatan yang kokoh. So beza dia sekarang ni, kalau kita tengok syarikat teknologi hari ini, dia mempunyai asas keuangan yang jauh lebih stabil dengan margin keuntungan yang tinggi dan imbangan tunai yang kukuh. Namun sejarah menunjukkan bahawa apabila pelaburan terlalu tertumpu pada satu tema, iaitu untuk meluaskan pasaran, pembetulan pasaran boleh berlaku dengan cepat. So kita boleh tengok even pada minggu lepas berlaku kejatuhan di dalam saham Meta dan juga Microsoft, dan kita juga boleh melihat kejatuhan 12% saham sebuah syarikat teknologi besar yang kalau kita tengok dia mengumumkan lonjakan perbelanjaan AI yang tinggi, dan ianya menjadi tanda amaran bahawa pasaran mula menilai semula risiko mereka terhadap pelaburan dalam syarikat-syarikat yang berasaskan dengan generatif AI.
Baik, itu adalah kebimbangan kita lihat daripada sejarah mengapa pelabur-labur kini berbimbang melihat kepada bubble.com 2000 itu. Sudah tentu kita lihat kebimbangan yang sama untuk gelembung AI pada kali ini. Tetapi daripada apa yang telah dikongsikan oleh Sidik, bagaimana perkembangan ini memberi kesan kepada Asia dan juga Malaysia?
So, apa yang boleh saya katakan, apabila saham teknologi di Amerika Syarikat ni dia merosot, yang kita boleh lihat pada minggu lalu, kesannya cepat dirasai di seluruh Asia. Indeks utama Korea, Taiwan dan juga Malaysia. Tiga-tiga indeks ini jatuh antara 2 hingga 3%, menunjukkan betapa eratnya rantaian bekalan dan juga sentimen pasaran serantau dengan pasaran global. So, Asia Timur yang kini menjadi nadi kepada rantaian bekalan AI dunia, iaitu kalau kita lihat Taiwan dan juga Korea, dia menghasilkan chip dan wafer yang berprestasi tinggi. Manakala Jepun dia membekalkan mesin dan juga peralatan ketepatan, manakala Malaysia serta Vietnam dia berada dalam kategori pengeluar komponen pertengahan dan juga perkhidmatan sokongan pembuatan. So, kesan positif daripada gelembung pelaburan AI yang kita boleh lihat adalah permintaan kukuh kepada komponen elektronik dan semikonduktor yang telah meningkatkan ekspor serantau. Itu yang kita lihat dan kita rasai pada sekitar 2 tahun yang lepas hingga kini. Misalnya Malaysia mencatatkan pertumbuhan ekspor ENE sebanyak 15% pada suku ketiga 2025, sementara aliran masuk pelaburan langsung asing ke sektor teknologi ini ketepatan tinggi meningkat ke paras tertinggi dalam tempoh 4 tahun. Tapi kalau kita tengok risiko tetap signifikan. Jika pelabur global mula merasai ataupun mula melihat valuasi saham AI ini sebagai terlalu tinggi. Pembetulan di Wall Street boleh mencetuskan aliran keluar dana asing dari Asia. So pada Oktober saja kalau kita tengok aliran keluar bersih daripada dana equity serantau dianggapkan melebihi 1 bilion US dollar yang menandakan peningkatan sikap berhati-hati terhadap sektor teknologi global. So bagi Malaysia, kesan dia mungkin ketara dalam bentuk tekanan jualan pada sektor eksport serta penurunan kecairan pasaran jangka masa pendek.
Baik, itu adalah antara kesan yang akan terima oleh Astra dan Malaysia sendiri. Dan kita nak lihat berbakikan 2 minit sedikit. Mungkin bantu kami faham juga antara sektor mana di Malaysia dan Astra ni paling terdedah atau berpotensi mendapat manfaat tersebut.
Okey, baik Nila. Kalau kita lihat untuk sektor yang paling sensitif adalah sektor teknologi dan juga E&E yang berkait rapat dengan rantaian bekalan chip global. So misalnya kalau kita tengok Malaysia kekal antara pemain penting dalam ekosistem semikonduktor dunia disokong oleh kestabilan politik, kos pengeluaran kompetitif dan juga dasar pelaburan yang mesra industri. Ini kalau kita boleh kumpulkan, dia menjadikan Malaysia sebagai destinasi pilihan bagi syarikat multinasional yang sedang mempelbagaikan operasi mereka di luar China. Namun kalau kita tengok Malaysia berada dalam titik keseimbangan yang luas, yang halus, yang kalau kita lihat dia menerima limpahan positif daripada ledakan pelaburan AI, tetapi pada masa yang sama dia juga terdedah kepada kelembapan mendadak sekiranya penurunan global menurun. So kalau kita tengok data terkini untuk pelaburan AI, dia menunjukkan pertumbuhan pesanan chip global yang meningkat 20% dan pada suku kedua, tapi kini pilihan sekitar 5% saja untuk suku ketiga. Menandakan permintaan mungkin sedang menurun ke tahap yang lebih sederhana. Di peringkat serantau kalau kita tengok Korea Selatan dan juga Taiwan paling sensitif dengan perubahan pelaburan kitaran AI ini kerana lebih 60% permintaan dunia bagi chip AI berpunca daripada dua ekonomi tersebut iaitu Korea Selatan dan juga Taiwan. Dan Jepun pula dia mendapat manfaat melalui peningkatan permintaan bagi peralatan ketepatan manakala Malaysia dan juga Vietnam seperti saya katakan tadi dia memainkan peranan sokongan melalui pengeluaran komponen dan juga pemasangan pertengahan. So selain daripada sektor teknologi dan EAE, saya boleh menyatakan sektor logistik, tenaga dan juga pembinaan data center juga dijangka turut mendapat limpahan ataupun manfaat daripada pertumbuhan AI global dengan penggunaan tenaga pusat data dijangka meningkat 30% sepanjang menjelang tahun 2026 ini. Dan tapi kalau kita tengok sektor domestik seperti perbankan, pengguna dia dijangka kekal stabil dan boleh menjadi benteng kepada ketidaktentuan luar.
Okey, kita berbakin 1 minit sahaja. Seperti yang lihat ini adalah antara sektor-sektor yang dijangka mendapat manfaat across Malaysia dan juga ASEAN. Jadi bagaimana untuk pelabur ni bersiap sedia, suka atau tidak menghadapi risiko bubble AI?
Okey, yang pertama pelabur dia perlu menilai secara kritikal sama ada sesuatu saham itu mempunyai asas pendapatan yang kukuh atau sebenarnya menumpang kepada naratif AI. Yang kedua adalah pendekatan buy on correction masih relevan menggunakan pembetulan sementara untuk menambahkan pegangan aset berkualiti tinggi dan akhir sekali mempelbagaikan pelaburan rentas rantau dan juga sektor. Walaupun sektor teknologi kekal penting, sektor domestik seperti teknologi hijau, keuangan dan juga penggunaan menawarkan kestabilan yang lebih baik dalam menghadapi turun naik global.
Terima kasih Sidik kerana bantu kami faham bagaimanakah sentimen pelabur di Bursa Malaysia dengan gelembung AI ini dan apakah antara persediaan yang boleh dilakukan oleh pelabur untuk menghadapi sebaran risiko daripada gelembung AI. Sekali lagi saya nak ucapkan terima kasih kepada pengarah strategi pelaburan dan ekonomi IPPFA Sedang Berhad, Muhammad Sidik Jantan, dan setiap perkongsian yang akan kami rangkumkan dalam astroni.com. YTL Power International Berhad is taking the lead in Malaysia's artificial intelligence AI revolution, driving large-scale technological transformation through its state-of-the-art AI data center campus in Kulai, Johor, a project that underscores Malaysia's emergence as a regional AI hub. The massive campus, powered by NVIDIA's cutting-edge liquid-cooled NVL72 Grace Blackwell GB200 GPUs is expected to reach full capacity within 2 years. The Malaysian media had the opportunity to interview YTL Power Managing Director Datuk Sri Yeo Sok Hong in Gwangju, South Korea.
As you know, Jensen visited Malaysia 22 months ago to find a destination to build AI in the region. And he found that Malaysia is the best place to put an AI hub because of our abundance of electricity, water, and land, and the resources that we have. So in the 22 months, Malaysia has been transformed. If you see the progress in Johor into already a major AI hub in the region. So the Prime Minister was very pleased that in a short while of 22 months, so much progress have been done through AI in Malaysia. So moving forward, the Prime Minister also wanted to have ideas from Jensen to have a committee to give him ideas on how to further accelerate this AI program in Malaysia. So this is this is very exciting, and I think what we have now in Malaysia is that we have all the compute power in terms of the NVIDIA chipsets that are already operational in our Kulai data center. We also have our large language model, the LLM called Ilmu, which means that Malaysia has the ability to do their own sovereign AI. Meaning to say that all these data will be done through our LLM, which is a Malaysian-owned, IP-owned by Malaysians, and all this will be subjected to the sovereignty of Malaysia. So for countries who want to implement AI, especially third world countries, we will be one of those that are in the forefront of AI in that we are able to develop our own ecosystem so that we don't have to parallel the likes of the world. So for YTL, the investment is of two nature. One is the infrastructure aspect of the investment, which is the data centers, which we have invested 10 billion. The other is the solution side, which is the large language model and the applications that comes with it. So if you have noticed, we just launched our Right Bank. It is the first AI bank in the world. And this is an example of how the AI is being powered by our Malaysian LLM using our Malaysian infrastructure of our data and the compute power in Malaysia. So already with the launch of this Ilmu, there are already 200 companies in Malaysia, startup companies, that are already talking to us how to connect to our APIs and how to begin to develop that. And we have a program also with the government to support them by giving them preferential tokens so that they are able to use these compute powers at very reasonable prices to develop their solutions. It is already operational. Customers are already beginning to use it already. And we are now talking about further expansion. The speed of further expansion will be also very reliant on the adaptation of Malaysian government's on the AI utilization. This month we have taken over and it's already been commissioned and is ready for use. Yeah, we already have a huge campus. It is a green data center in that we have solar power that is empowering the electricity supply. On top of that, we have got 600 megawatts of the national utility, which backs up the power requirements of these clusters. So Malaysia, we already have 300 megawatts being built and commissioned on the side. So it's growing at a very rapid pace, and we reckon in the next 2 years, this will be fully occupied. We are not announcing any numbers, but as you know, we are not just doing with NVIDIA. There are other data centers, a lot of hyperscalers, international hyperscalers, they are also on this campus. I think we are in the forefront of in the region, in that because we have our own Malaysian own infrastructure, we have our own large language models, and which is the brain behind all the solutions. So with this, we can quickly translate this into applications. Like I said, if you are using Right Bank today, it is powered by Malaysian infrastructure already. So more and more solutions will be found, and very quickly too. And Malaysia, as you know, is a very stable government, and once the major players all over the world have chosen Malaysia and Johor in particular to be their base, it will only grow from here, because it is when you have an international operations like this and such huge investments, you can't be shifting from one place to another. This is how Malaysia was once the biggest semiconductor player in the region, and I think the AI data centers will also enjoy the same catalyst, the same form of investment. It is the place of choice in Southeast Asia now for building data centers.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, we have implemented a lot of things, and we are now, on the solution side. Like I said, the ILMU will be powering a lot of solutions, all right, from banking solutions. For example, a lot of private and confidential data are required in certain industries like banks and all that. They will be the fastest to adopt this because of the sovereignty of data. So all these things are coming up very quickly now, and the implementation is getting very fast. And the important thing is that we have proven that Malaysian has the expertise and the capability of implementing this successfully. So just in case we are doubting that we don't have the resources or the manpower or the capability to do this project has shown that, and also confirmed by Jensen himself, that Malaysia is indeed leading in the region already. Okay, I think it is for Malaysia, as far as the government is concerned, the most important thing is how do you transform very quickly this AI technology to improve the service to the rakyat. For example, when you talk about healthcare, today the technology for healthcare is such, if you have already, like Malaysia has, 5G connectivity, AI, what it means is that today you do not have to send a patient to Kuala Lumpur to do a checkup. All right? Simple checkups can be done through AI, and all these valuations can be done. If we are short of radiographers, say short of people to evaluate some of these things, this can be done by expert of pools of doctors rather than individuals. So resources can be pulled together, communications can be done. It is going to transform. So why is it important to have a Malaysian own large language model? It means that it is localized. It can speak our dialect. It can speak our language. So when we are seeing things, we are still used to the fact that it's text. That means we have a text, there's a reply. In future, the AI is only going to be spoken. So you can imagine our machis or pachis in the kampungs. They may not type, but they can speak. And that AI is going to be able to interact with her and guide her without her having to transform technology, learning how to type and how to do all this digital. Is going to be very. So the beauty about AI is that it's not only text, it's going to be voice, it's going to be vision, is going to, so services can be converted very easily, and cost of doing it is going to be much easier. And it's going to be 24-hour service. And also, it's not so much a human service that that will be so much more difficult. So it is like this that I think especially in the rural areas, that this technology has to be given, has to be brought. Right. For example, today, if you look at our right bank, you can open an account in 2 minutes. You don't have to make an appointment to go to a bank branch. If you are in a kampung, isn't that great? Right? You can transfer money, or your children can transfer money to you. You can spend it in your kampung and all that. You don't need necessary cash, and you don't need to be transported somewhere. If you're paying your bills, everything is easier. Okay, so technology is going to come and it's going to ease the life. And that's what our Prime Minister and the government wants this to succeed, because it knows that this is the way to improve services for the rakyat. This is in Kulai. We still have 300 megawatts capacity to be filled up. And of course,
within the same area.
Within the same campus.
Right.
And of course, we have new campuses in KL and other places as well.
So in 2 years, it's not just Kulai, it's also
yeah,
other areas.
all over. We are growing very fast. We are in Selangor. We are in every place now. But I think the important thing is the full integration on infrastructure and solutions. It's no point when you have infrastructure when you have no solutions. All right, because you still cannot get out the product. You are still waiting for someone to give you a solution. But now our young people can now use this compute power and provide their own solutions. So you'll be surprised. I'm personally, when we look at the bank and this right bank is 100% designed by our Malaysian capabilities, our Malaysian engineers. And so it proves the point that we have those capabilities. And now we get a lot of calls, a lot of contacts from all over the world that wants to come back because they see that Malaysia is advancing on AI, and they can come back and participate in this and do something for Malaysia. Before they are educated, they have done it, but no job in Malaysia. There is no. But with this, it opens up for them to come back and also help Malaysia quicken this process and acceleration of AI implementation. Yeah.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Cara kita mendapat berita kian berubah. Melalui media sosial maupun saluran digital yang lain serta kaca TV. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Kita buat sesuatu yang berbeza. Teraskan acuan verifikasi yang diamalkan supaya setiap fakta adalah sahih. Daripada analisis pelbagai sudut yang mendalam, laporan-laporan khas dan perbincangan yang membina negara. Inklusif, suara rakyat kami ajukan. Keseimbangan persepsi kami pastikan. Kerana setiap cerita mempunyai impak yang tersendiri dan perlu dibawa dengan penelitian yang terperinci. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada. Saluran berita paling dipercayai di Malaysia.
Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kausji. Niaga Spotlight takes us through the week in economic analysis and future affairs. Now, today on Analysis, our spotlight is on Malaysia's gender-powered economy. In a week dominated by regional summits and investment narratives, Malaysia has an opportunity to lead ASEAN by example with a gender-powered, inclusive economy amidst slowing global growth. Now, in line with this, Malaysia just launched the Wanita My Wira Accelerator, backed by the World Economic Forum and led by Talent Corp, alongside key ministries and private sector partners. It aims to train 100,000 women for high-growth sectors in AI, green energy, and digital services, positioning Malaysia as the first ASEAN country to operationalize WEF's global accelerator model at national scale. Now, this also comes at a most pivotal moment. Malaysia's female labor force participation rate stands at roughly 56.2% compared to around roughly 78.4% for men, and a gap which, if closed, carries an estimated 26% potential gain in income per capita, according to the World Bank's reports. Now, the IMF also further notes that women have already contributed up to 14% of Malaysia's GDP growth over the last decade. Clear evidence as well of gender inclusion as an economic strategy. Today, we aim to examine how Wanita Maiwira can potentially drive Malaysia towards its minimum 60% female labor force participation target by 2030, convert training into real income mobility, and establishing women as a central engine of national competitiveness and ASEAN leadership, measurable via GDP impact. Welcoming to the studios on that note, Nazrul Aziz, Group Chief Strategy Officer, Talent Corp, together with Nurul Ain Abdul Latif, Executive Chair, PwC Malaysia, and Chair of the 30% Club, Malaysia. A very good morning to the both of you.
Thank you, Tamina.
Thank you so much for being with us here today. So if I could get the conversation started, perhaps, Nazrul, by referring to you, and let's talk a little bit more about Talent Corp's good track record, which is basically a decade running programs like the Women's Career Comeback Grant, and Flexible Work Advisory. So how has that actually helped to build the potential framework for the Wanita Maiwira Accelerator?
Let me actually bring us back to how we started this accelerator project.
Sure.
So we started off with a Labour Minister meeting attended by our minister way back in 2024 in Geneva. So at that point, WF offered Malaysia to run an accelerator. We scanned across the accelerator to assess what would be the value of this accelerator for Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the countries that we have looked across, one example is Japan. Japan, when they started this accelerator, their problem statement was on gender wage gap. As an outcome of the accelerator, they then now legislate a gender wage gap reporting, which is now translated into an act there. And in addition to that, they also get more than 300 male CEOs to commit to this. So that's a game changer for Japan. And in Colombia, we've seen that they have legislate paternity leave, extended paternity leave after the accelerator.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking that, okay, there's an outcome of this accelerator.
Mm-hmm. In these two different markets.
Yes,
yeah.
But before we decide on women, we have further discussion with Minister. What will be the key focus area that we want to look at? There are youth unemployment, for example, or underemployment issue, for example, and also we also raise about female labor force participation rate. And then finally, we land on female labor force participation rate, looking at how we can align it with the economy Madani target of achieving female labor force participation rate at 60% by 2030.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started. And there's a lot of conversation and discussion across with World Economic Forum, and we made it very clear that we don't want this to be just a gender-focused accelerator, because in our context, we are not looking this as just as a gender issue. We are looking this from an economic imperative.
Understood.
Like you mentioned just now, how gender inclusivity contribute to the economic development. So we are looking this from the economic perspective, because for us, talent matters. Talent will support the economic growth of the country. And of course, within the talent pool, there's a untapped talent pool, the female talent, that we need to ensure that we optimize them. So that's how it started. Of course, you mentioned about the program that we had done earlier, the Career Comeback Program, Life at Work Award, for example. But what we want to move to another level is to transition program-centric to ecosystem-based. We want to address this from ecosystem perspective, where connecting all these dots across, the three focus area for this accelerator will be, number one, we are looking at skilling. But it's not just another skilling, because everyone does skilling. But this skilling will be evidence-based skilling. we base this skilling on the foundation that we have built through our impact study of AI, digital and green economy on our workforce. So there are emerging roles that we have identified. There are lowly impacted roles that we have identified could be potentially filled by women. So what we are doing is actually we will then actually look at what will be the skill set that can allow women to pivot into this role
Mhm.
and to make them more agile and flexible.
Exactly.
So
So I
that's
think
one.
it's very interesting that a lot has been informed not only by what gaps exist within Malaysia, but also trying to see how regional models apply.
Exactly.
So moving from there, Nazrul, if I could move into asking Nurul more about board level accountability as well. Now, PwC Malaysia's recent work with boards shows that there is a little bit of skepticism still around gender diversity despite lots of regulatory nudges. So are there any board level mechanisms in your experience that you've seen to actually shift behavior of corporate culture so that it is much more inclusive for women who are already eligible to take part at this level?
The PwC Corporate Director Survey in 2024 highlighted, several, interesting observations. It's, 25% of board members we surveyed says that yes, policy and regulation have actually helped nudge the gender diversity agenda, and I think this is proven by the statistics of having more than 30% on gender diversity on boards of the top 100 public listed company. But interestingly, the statistics of the survey showed that almost half still were not very clear in terms of how gender diversity actually resulted in better business outcome. And I think that is where the problem is. For me as chair of the 30% club, we still need to convince board members that gender diversity does improve business performance. As you mentioned before, there are mechanisms which I've seen which have helped with the agenda. But I think what we must remember is that it shouldn't just be a box ticking exercise. Even if you have a diverse board or a diverse senior management, if it is not inclusive, in substance, you will not get the diverse perspective of in the meeting. So I thought that some of the mechanisms which has worked in some companies, both local and global,
Sure.
having P&L link KPIs. At the end of the day, as a business, it's always business outcome. I think the second very important point, and this ensures that it is not just gender diversity now, but it is a lot more sustainable, is the incorporation of gender targets when we do succession planning. And thirdly is the use of subcommittees to make sure that female board members or senior management are a lot more ready. So if I can just elaborate in terms of the
Sure.
P&L link KPIs, it may not be very prevalent here, but globally we have seen gender diversity targets being set in tandem with growth in terms of result and linked to senior management remuneration, right? And you know what? It reinforces the point that gender diversity is not standalone, but it actually benefits the whole organization.
Exactly, and that's the whole idea around it. And meanwhile, actually, coming from the WEF's Global Gender Gap Report 2025, Malaysia's actually increased our ranking from 146, we are on to 108. Very, very encouraging. We hope to perhaps potentially with success to come from the Wanita Maivira Accelerator and support from partners to perhaps break that 100, the top 100 globally. So coming back into that, Chair Nazrul, now the accelerator's first year ambition is pretty bold. Tell us more about how you envision it being operationalized now that, of course, the launch is behind us and we're looking forward towards the frameworks that can hopefully be rolled out in tandem too.
So that's why we target 3 phases for Wanita Maivira. So the first year 2026 will be on the skilling side. We just need to get the skilling right first. This is not new for us because we have established an ecosystem called My Future Skill Talent Council, where we have established 18 sector councils comprising leaders from respective sector. So they will decide right from what are the demands of the sector, what are the gaps, what will be the fulfillment required, and then who are the best provider for that fulfillment. Throughout this, actually, we then actually fund the skilling. And within this pool of talent, we have about 4,000. 1,006 are already women. So mean that we are already running it. What we are doing next actually with Wanita Maiwira is actually to repurpose it and to make it more strategic to focus on the 3 domain area:
Right.
AI, digital, and green economy. So the number, when we put that number, it was not just, I mean, a number that we
Not
just
arbitrary. Yeah.
simply pluck from the air. It's a number that we have actually done. And the outcome of this My Mahi ecosystem is we have seen some increase of salary, about 10 to 15% from the first cohort of 400 of them. So we actually track them. We assess where were they before and then how much they are earning now. So there's an increase of 10 to 15% across. So we will build Wanita Maiwira skilling based on that. So in addition to that, we need to tie with a proper and structured framework of returnship also for those who are already on career break. So there's another approach that we will co-develop a framework throughout this accelerator, that we will then actually structure a proper returnship program. So rather than just simply telling the companies to take back, so we will then actually work together with the company to develop an industry accepted framework for returnship. So that's our target. So coming to the second phase will be the scaling up of this accelerator up to state level. This is where
Right.
actually we get the number. That's why next year will be very critical, because once actually the accelerator get the right model, it's time for us actually to go to the state level. The state level will be the number that we are going to scale it up, about 40,000. And we do hope that by 2030, we are going to reach 100,000. So hopefully after that, once everything has been firmed up, then we then translate it into a strategic statement together with Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development within the RMK, the upcoming RMK 14. Yeah.
Exactly,
So
because
that's
it's also about not just the trainings, but then achieving a placement goal as well
Yep.
for the women who
So
have
that's
been
why we
trained.
get 1,000 companies also to be part of this accelerator
Exactly.
to commit on adopting FWA, work-life practices, as well as returnship. And like Nurul mentioned just now, we really need to link it to the P&L so that actually it become like a business decision. You are not able to retain talent is cost for you. So I mean, those things that we are working together with the companies. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us perfectly to segue into what PwC has been doing. And in your experience, Nurul, when it comes to designing work around life, but not so much the other way around, PwC has, of course, implemented for a while now family-friendly as well as flexible provisions. In your experience, which specific flexible work designs are actually the ones which help to improve women's retention as well as progression once they are back within the workforce?
Okay. So we introduced the Flex program more than 10 years ago, and it was done in stages because we need to assess whether it has impact to the business,
Sure.
it has impact to client service delivery, and impact to the people within. So what we found as it relates to retention and progression is there is no one size fit all solution, and for women, for example, the needs and challenges differs over their career journey, and I think the most impactful initiative is the one which are low hanging fruit. So I feel what was very popular and what actually helped was the flex time initiative. It means that there's a lot of flexibility in terms of when you come into work, when you clock out, and it's very useful to an employee who has just started having a family, dropping off children to school, picking them up from nursery. So that was very popular, and it was both a recruitment tool because it attracted many of our young graduates, as well as a retention tool. I think the other one which I felt I enjoyed it a lot personally is flex space. It means that you can work wherever you are as long as your work is done.
Right.
It can be at home, it can be in a cafe, it can be in the office or your client's place. And it actually empowers people to manage their time a lot better with their teams. So there were many other initiatives I thought, I could share where, for returning mothers, for example, we have the reduced work program.
Mm-hmm.
You work 3 days a week. Obviously, salary will be a portion. It may take a bit longer to get a promotion, but there are some people who have benefited from having those kind of program.
That's right. Managing, especially during the time when a family is in its early growth stages.
Yeah.
So all of that makes so much sense, particularly Nazrul, as Talent Core was also behind this entire framework and guidelines, and now also runs the FWA at Workplace Advisory. So through the Wanita MyWira Accelerator, tell us about what the idea is about translating what the FWA models have shown us insofar, and then trying to apply it for, in particular, Malaysian industries, SMEs, those who face very specific sector challenges for implementing what can be seen as very beneficial for a large corporation, but may not make that much economic sense in the immediate term for them.
I understand. I mean, it's not easy because, I mean, when we started all this among the GLCs and MNCs, I mean, it's there. But the bigger challenge will be on the SME side. So that will be the space that we are going to attack and target. We need to work closely with SMEs, actually, how actually we can actually collaboratively create a conducive environment that will be able to retain women in the workforce. For example, in every 10 Malaysian, 5 will be working with SMEs. So addressing this from SME perspective will be very, very important.
Crucial, yeah.
Very, very crucial. So that's why when you ask about life at work, and then you ask about the aturan kerja fleksibel, that, I mean, the garis panduan that we have introduced together with Jabatan Tenaga Kerja, it need to be an ecosystem. That's why we are actually connecting all these dots together under this accelerator. As I mentioned earlier, skilling is one part of it, but we know that no matter how good we are in skilling this woman, at the end of the day, if the workplace and the work itself is not enabling, then it won't work. So that's how actually we working with companies actually to, I mean, the 1,000 company to really drive these changes. And these companies will range from the top, and from the top, the MNC GLCs, up to the SMEs. And we believe that we have all this pool of companies that we have engaged with through our Life at Work Award. There's a lot of companies actually part of the ecosystem through our LAWA. And in fact, yesterday was our 10th anniversary of LAWA.
That's right.
Yesterday. So last night, we celebrated LAWA. So at the end of the day, it is all about the ecosystem. So our concern is actually we are focusing too much on program verticals. So it's now about working horizontally and bring
Streamlining everything
together, because it's interrelated to each other. So if you ask me what the accelerator will do, it's not that we have not done this before. We have done it. But point is actually we are using this accelerator as a platform for us to connect and bring everyone together, so that let's address this as an ecosystem.
Exactly. And I think this is going to be particularly important for those mid-sized companies, so that they are able to not just participate in the accelerator, but also meet all the preconditions, right? Nurul, I would love to ask you about looking at indicators, right? For every employer potentially who wants to participate in the accelerator, what type of indicators should they be reporting, so that we are very finite about what the parameters that they are meeting when it comes to accountability and leadership transparency?
Transparency generates accountability, and it's very important that it's not just having an indicator, but it has to be monitored and reported. So the indicators would need to, I feel, cover a couple of key principles. One, representation of women in the workforce, and some of the indicators which I feel is quite easily sort of reported and data determined is in terms of number of women in the workforce. And this shouldn't just be looked at as a blended number. I think what also is important is to sort of drill down. It could be by levels. Like in PwC, we looked at different levels, the more junior levels, manager levels, and the more senior levels, because the ratios, you'll see that it is very different.
Oh,
if
yes,
you look at
especially
it
C-suite, right?
in the granular way. I think it's not only just representation, statistics in a point in time. what is also more important is to keep them, retention. Yeah.
Sure.
And there are a number of ratios which you be able to use to assess the retention of women along their career journey. And this could be looking at hiring and turnover rate at different level. And I have seen companies where to make sure that all departments, not all the females are skewed to one department. I think they actually drill it down by department. I think thirdly, you retain the people, you retain the female workers. What also is important to make sure that we have a good pipeline of senior leaders is the advancement opportunity. So the ratio which we have used is looking at percentage of promotion, within the workforce, and this could also be compared with the proportion to the woman talent pool. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think these are good KPIs. But many times it's like, yes, I meet or I don't meet the KPI. What happens? So there has to
That's right.
be
Consequence management.
consequence is very important. I think senior management or the board need to assess, why are targets not met? Because this could be data points to see what should be done to make it better.
Mhm.
And consequent management will include not just diversity target. What is also very important is inclusion, right? And this has to be monitored and reported, and it should be part of the formal performance review.
Absolutely, because all of this is actually part of the minimum threshold, which
Yeah.
can actually drive workplace transformation, which ideally is what you're also looking at.
Yeah.
Nasrul, you had mentioned briefly earlier about the Life at Work Awards, the LAWA Awards. So that has also become a reputational lever amongst the Malaysian ecosystem for DEI and flexible work excellence. How can Malaysia perhaps use the accelerator now to prototype a little bit more of a data-driven, evidence-based approach?
As I mentioned just now, Femina, when we started this accelerator, we start with the premise that, okay, we have done a lot of things, but we not necessarily know everything. So there's a lot of data points that we have collected, including from LAWA. The whole idea is here to bring all this data together, crunch it, and then find a collective solution towards it. So LAWA has been there for 10 years. There's a lot of data points behind LAWA. There's a lot of best practices. For example, we are a mini World Economic Forum, I would say, for in the context of DEI, because the reason why we joined this accelerator partly is also, apart from WEF providing us with the methodology to run this accelerator, they also provide us to access to the accelerator network so that we can learn from other countries.
Right.
Similarly, for LAWA, is something that we can actually emulate, where actually companies actually can learn from each other across, right? From the SMEs, learning from the JLCs, MNCs learning across. And I believe maybe there are certain things that MNCs, JLCs also can learn from the SMEs.
Sure.
So what we'll do is we bring all these LAWA inputs and data points into this accelerator, and how actually we want to enable a workplace that is actually feasible for us to drive the agenda of female labor force participation rate 60% by 2030. So that's something that we are, how actually we are going to bring LAWA in this accelerator. So because, I mean, all the data points actually is there, is something that we will actually use it more effectively and optimize it.
And when you say using it more effectively and optimizing, would there be a move towards moving from pledges into perhaps verified outcomes for accelerator-tied mandate?
Definitely with the companies who are part of the accelerator, there'll be a proper tracker based on the three components: the skilling part, the retention part, as well as the implementation of the flexible working arrangement or work-life practices. So we properly track whether there's correlation between the implementation of flexible working arrangement, for example, with the retention of the woman, for example. So we need to do this. In fact, for your information, we are currently assessing we are doing an impact study of the implementation of the 60P and 60K flexible working arrangement under Employment Act. So we are looking at how effective, because we introduced it, the Kusuma introduced it in 2023. So we have actually now 2 years. So we are looking at how actually this 60P and 60Q actually really impact the workforce. So we are assessing it. It will be completed by end of this year. So that will also be another input for the accelerator. So there are many inputs that we are working on parallelly that will be actually going into the accelerator.
Absolutely. So all of that sounds like a very dynamic sort of an ecosystem, which is taking into fact a lot of very recent data. Because when you talk about 2023 onwards, that's actually also post-pandemic
Post-pandemic.
Work from home orders, and also seeing which companies were quite resilient in adopting it and which ones were still trying to find their feet. So as we move towards closing out the conversation, Nurul, perhaps I could ask you about looking at change programs for inclusion. Now, PwC's hopes and fears data is showing that Malaysian workers do, in general, feel overwhelmed by constant changes, right? So tell us a little bit more around this.
Well, the survey showed that big majority, 75% of the people surveyed are saying that wow, they have encountered so much change in that particular year in 2024 compared to 12 months prior.
Right.
And I think women are most impacted because they are overrepresented in in sectors where automation is a risk.
Generative AI is
AI.
really impacting them.
And I think in some places, maybe not all, the opportunity in terms of development programs, upskilling may be a bit limited for female. So what I would suggest, and this is what we also do in PwC, is for a leader to implement your change program, I think couple of points. Looking at skills and visibility of female employees. I think if you have bite-sized, very short upskilling program for relevant skills, I think
Right.
that would work wonders for female employees because it sort of opens up that opportunity for them. What is also very important is you may upskill them, you may give them the tool, but I think in terms of the environment of the workforce, I think that also has to be looked at. So psychological safety is an element which will make people embrace any change. Yeah, making sure that the organization, it is safe to speak your view and have open dialogues with your team members. I think the third very important element is the culture itself. Yeah, culture is very important. The policy may say that, oh, we are very open and inclusive, but does the leaders actually embrace that, right? It's
And
not
what
just lip
kind of
service.
what can you put in place, perhaps, Nurul, as maybe early warning metrics,
Yeah.
let's say, so that companies and organizations can also act on it in case they are also new to wanting to adopt all of this kind of inclusivity?
Okay. So organizations normally have their annual employee survey.
Sure.
And I think we should look out for the statistics for questions, for example, your sense of belonging in the organization, or issues with team members or unconscious bias, because any declining statistics would give you an indicator that there's something wrong. Aside from that, you don't rely only on annual surveys. The KPIs, which I mentioned just now, that
Sure.
should be tracked regularly. And if you see a decline in score or statistics which is an outlier, I think that's where we need to be ready to assess. What is the temperature out there in the in the workspace? Yeah.
Absolutely. So Nurul, as well as Nazrul, thank you so much for the fantastic conversation. And in closing, Wanita Mawira is a litmus test for how serious Malaysia is about the gender-powered economic transformation model. The outcomes will be measured by hopefully how many women enter high-value sectors, their earnings shifting income distribution, and how widely the private sector is also able to adopt structural reform instead of merely symbolic compliance. If gender participation rises, productivity rises, and if it stalls, so does competitiveness. This is a strategic agenda, and the window to act is now. I'm Tamina Kowski signing off for now. Here's to a productive week ahead.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
6 Disember ini, bersedia untuk kita Run Fest 2025. Lebih daripada sekadar larian, ianya demi kebaikan. Jom lakukan yang terbaik untuk alam sekitar. Sertai kami bersama keluarga dan rakan-rakan. Alami pelbagai aktiviti menarik. Daftar sekarang. Pelanggan Astro. Nikmati diskaun 20% dengan Astro Rewards. 6 Disember ini, jumpa anda di Kita Run Fest.